Rosemary Morton was 38 years old and had been the manager of one of Manhattan's most glamorous and respectable cafes, the Green Coffee, for more than 5 years. Currently, this waitress's life was reduced to her 6-hour day at the restaurant, her 1-hour morning workouts running around her respectable neighborhood, and reading as many books as she could during the remaining time she wasn't doing either one thing or the other. In short, her life was boring, empty, and lacking what anyone needs: moments of fun and the company of a loved one. Of course, Rosemary's life hadn't always been like this, God bless her. But it had been so long since she had lived isolated from the world and cut herself off from any social environment or close friendships that the waitress didn't even miss what it was like to sit down for coffee with a friend and catch up on their lives. Morton was lonely as one can be, and though her loneliness had an obscure motive that she would never allow herself to reveal, that didn't make it any less sad, or her any less weird. However, this story is not about the sullen and surly character of this young woman, but rather about what precisely this unpleasant character she had developed over the last few years would bring about in the coming hours. An event that would forever change the course of her life and make her and other people we will present next realize many things they thought they knew everything about. It was a very pleasant spring day, and the cafe was bustling with satisfied customers waiting for their order at their tables and enjoying a cup of one of the best-rated coffees in the whole city. Rosemary, on the other hand, was having a terribly bad day in which her already non-existent mood was reaching the limits of her existence, and she was threatening to explode and take down the first person who provoked her. Her boss had left her in charge of the premises all morning, during which time all sorts of misfortunes had already occurred, including the accidental dropping of a tray by one of the new waitresses, which had ruined the crockery and filled the teenager, who was expecting to drink it in the normal way, with a delicious, if sticky, cafe macchiato. Afterward, a customer had returned her cheese sandwich twice to the kitchen because she said it was cold, and after heating it up twice more, she left the premises indignant and without paying the bill. But that wasn't what broke the waitress's patience, but what would happen just a few minutes later. That's when the other two protagonists of our story came on the scene. Olivia, a respectable-looking single white woman, and her 4-year-old black son, Tom. The two were about to enjoy a leisurely lunch until they were lucky enough to bump into each other in the waitress's path. While Rose was picking up the leftover food from a table, the mother entered the restaurant with her son, and they sat down at the table where the waitress was just finishing cleaning up. "We can sit here, can't we? Are we disturbing you, miss?" asked the boy's mother politely, looking the waitress straight in the eye and searching for a sign of approval. The waitress, who didn't feel like talking to anyone and was visibly annoyed to see them sitting at the table she was arranging, just gave a slight grunt in response and tilted her head to one side in refusal. The boy's mother looked at her a little quizzically, but decided not to comment and told her son to sit down and start looking at the menu. "Tom, honey, what would you like to drink? A strawberry milkshake or a chocolate cereal shake? Take your pick. It's your birthday today," Olivia commented, handing the menu to the boy. "Chocolate milkshake, Mommy! It's my favorite," the boy announced excitedly, raising his voice slightly, which caused several diners to turn to look at their table, although they all smiled tenderly at the fact that it was a boy. And Rosemary herself, who had barely moved away from them and clicked her tongue in protest at the boy's unbecoming attitude in the cafe. Luckily, though, no one seemed to hear her. Tom was a really lovely boy. His smile and the energy that surrounded him made it impossible to feel bad or get angry with him. He was also a very smart and sensitive child who seemed to understand the world around him in a different way to other children. To his mother, Tom was her guardian angel, a gift that had come to fill her life with joy and light. As you may have gathered by now, Olivia is a single mother who has decided to become a mother in an equally respectable alternative way, by adopting an abandoned child. Tom was that child, and from the moment he came into her life, she knew that being his mother would not be easy. Not only because she would have to raise him knowing that he was not her child, and that she would have to explain it to him when he grew up, but also because of his skin color and the opinion that this could arouse in certain people in society. Rosemary seemed to be one of those people, although she had not yet given any proof of that. But that was about to change in a matter of minutes. Olivia looked over the menu carefully, and 5 minutes later, she gestured for Rosemary to come over and make a note of it. "Can you come, please? We know what we're having," Olivia said politely, waving her over to their table. The waitress, however, pretended not to hear her, despite having made eye contact with her, and went into the kitchen. Olivia was a little hurt by the waitress's indifference to her and her son, but decided to move on and simply called out to the next waitress who crossed her path. The waitress who served them was the opposite of Rosemary, and Tom won her affection in a matter of minutes. "I'll bring you the biggest chocolate milkshake in the world, and you'll eat it all because you're a champion," said the waitress to the boy, raising her arms like a superhero. "Yes, I'm faster than Superman. I'll eat it all by myself." Tom was thrilled, and Olivia was very relieved that the second waitress had been so kind to her and her son. Unfortunately, the nice girl who had served her, Karen, was finishing her shift at that very moment, and the only person left available in the cafe to serve them breakfast was again the first person she had met when she came in, the manager, Rosemary. "Rose, I'm leaving. I'll leave you the order for table 6. It's the mother and that adorable little boy. I promised him an extra serving of chocolate milkshake because it's his birthday. You told me that the boss likes to have nice things like that with the kids, right? I'm sure he'll like it. Bye. See you tomorrow." Rose just nodded and said goodbye to her companion, but a feeling that had been lying dormant for a long time began to stir inside her. A pain that she had tried to hide in the depths of her heart, and which she had begun to feel again the moment she saw the woman and her son enter the cafe. The waitress took a deep breath and tried to push those thoughts out of her mind. Then she prepared the chocolate milkshake with cereal for the boy and the coffee with extra caramel for his mother. She did it slowly, and with the same professionalism and good taste with which she prepared the rest of the orders for all the customers. After all, she was in charge, and her boss trusted her to be the best at her job, and she should not let her personal convictions get in the way. When the order was ready, she took the tray to table 6, where Tom and Olivia were waiting anxiously. The boy greeted the waitress with a big smile, and as she placed the chocolate milkshake on the table, a huge milkshake with extra chocolate, just as her companion had told her, the boy wanted to thank her for her kindness. "Wow, it's gigantic. Thank you very much, miss. Today is my birthday, you know. I'm 4 years old. I'm a big boy," said the boy, smiling, and with a tone of voice that exuded innocence and kindness. Anyone else would have been deterred by the boy's comment and the look of happiness on his face at that moment. Tom was the epitome of innocence and beauty. How could anyone not be immune to his charms? But apparently, Rosemary belonged to the small, select group of people who could be immune, and to whom the sweetness of a child did not make her smile, but quite the opposite. The waitress gave the boy a cold look, and instead of smiling, she turned her back on him and replied curtly, "It's just my job," Rosemary muttered, walking away from the table with a quick step. Olivia was even more surprised by this comment, as she did not expect such a reaction from the waitress, and even less so when it was a child speaking to her. The waitress's cold attitude did not go unnoticed among the diners near table number 6 either, provoking a series of exchanges of glances and comments about her. "What a nasty woman! Poor child!" A young couple at the next table could be heard commenting. "Doesn't she realize that he's just a child? You frightened him?" said another old woman in an indignant tone. The waitress turned a deaf ear to all the comments and stares aimed at her and continued with her work. Unfortunately, something was about to happen that would put an end once and for all to the waitress's little patience and expose her true feelings. Olivia tried to forget the nasty waitress and her repeated slights to her and her son, when suddenly, little Tom inadvertently knocked the cup of his milkshake over, and it fell to the floor, showering the table and much of the floor with broken glass and chocolate milkshake. The child was very frightened by the noise and began to cry inconsolably. "I'm sorry, Mummy!" cried the boy, while his mother ran to his side to check that he hadn't hurt himself on some glass and cleaned him from the remains of the chocolate milkshake that had fallen on his clothes. "Don't cry, honey. Shh. Calm down. It's all right. It was an accident. We'll sort it out. Don't cry, please." His mother consoled him, caressing his face with love to make him understand that he had not hurt himself and that it was nothing serious. Olivia knew her son well and managed to calm him down quickly. However, the noise that her son's little accident had caused had not gone unnoticed by the restaurant manager, who at that moment was speeding towards them, a broom in her hand and a furious look on her face. She seemed ready for anything. The mother swallowed as she saw her coming, and in a trembling voice, not daring to look the woman in the eye again, she hastened to apologize for the trouble her son was causing her. But it did her no good. "I'm so sorry about what happened. My son hit the cup with his hand and threw it on the floor. But Olivia couldn't finish speaking. Rosemary had reached the limit of her patience that day, and Olivia and her son were going to suffer the consequences. "You should be more careful. It took me a long time to prepare it, and you threw it on the floor without even trying it. Children today are very poorly educated." Rosemary exploded, shouting directly at the child. Olivia was as pale as her son and was completely shocked. She knew this waitress was nasty, rude, and even racist, something she could tell by the way she looked at her son the moment he set foot in the restaurant. But what she was doing was beyond anything she could have imagined. This woman was a real monster. Tom was speechless and looked to his mother for help, but before his mother could intervene, the waitress spoke again. "Out of the restaurant right now," Rosemary said to the boy, pointing to the door and glaring at the boy with deep contempt. "I beg your pardon?" Olivia asked incredulously, getting up from her seat and placing herself between her son and the waitress. Rosemary didn't change her attitude and repeated what she had said to the boy, this time with a more threatening tone and raising her voice even higher. "Did you not understand me, madam? Get out of the restaurant, both of you, right now. You've caused me a lot of trouble. Get out!" shouted the waitress. Olivia couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had never been treated so despicably, as if she and her son were trash. No one in the cafe dared to say anything to contradict the waitress. The rest of the diners had abandoned their conversations, and no one dared to take a bite of the food on their plates. Some had even taken out their mobile phones and were recording the whole scene, and possibly sharing it live with hundreds of other people. Most of them just looked at each other, wondering what was going to happen next. But what was going to happen next? No one could have expected, not even Rosemary, who thought she was the only one who had the situation under control. Olivia took her son in her arms and prepared to leave the cafeteria, heartbroken, under the gaze of everyone in the room. She had never felt more humiliated. If she had been alone, she would probably have confronted the waitress directly and wanted to know exactly what she had against her. But with Tom present, she didn't want to involve the boy in such a conflict, or frighten him any more than he already was. The waitress again pointed fiercely at the door, and as Olivia started to walk towards it, Rosemary followed her, as if she didn't trust the woman to leave, making the situation even more humiliating. But before Olivia could get through the door and forcing Rosemary to back up sharply to avoid being hit hard, the door burst open, and a group of 4 bikers dressed entirely in shiny black leather burst through the door, shouting loudly for the waitress. "Are you the waitress, Rosemary?" asked one of the 4 bikers, the tallest and strongest of the 4, who seemed to be the leader of the group. The attitude of the waitress suddenly changed, and the confidence she felt disappeared, revealing a frightened and hesitant woman. "It's you! I've seen you on the video, and I'm sure it is," said the man, glaring at her and raising his voice. The waitress took a few more steps back and finally nodded. Olivia had been stunned to see these men enter and stood to one side with her son in her arms. Now, it was her turn to watch the woman being humiliated.
Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story.
Another of the bikers, a much younger one with a friendly face, turned to Olivia and said the only thing the mother needed to hear at that moment. "You are not alone. We have seen everything this woman has done to you and your little boy. We are here to help you and to bring you justice," said the young man, smiling and putting a hand on her arm as a sign of support. Olivia nodded nervously, still holding Tom in her arms. The boy was still very frightened, but he was no longer crying. She couldn't quite understand what had happened, or how those men had found out what the waitress had done to her. "Who are you?" was all she managed to ask. The biker laughed and looked at her tenderly. "Have you never heard of the guardian angels of Manhattan? Well, that's okay, you know us now. We're a biker gang that people ask for help through our personal hashtag on social media. Someone tagged a video showing the waitress mistreating you and your son. We came as fast as we could," the smiling young man explained. Olivia seemed to be even more surprised after the explanation she had just been given, but she felt much more relaxed and was even starting to smile. As they spoke, Rosemary tried to escape inside the restaurant and run away from the accusatory stares of the biker gang and the other diners, who were watching the scene in bewilderment and recording it all on their mobile phones. But the biker boss wouldn't let her. "Where do you think you're going, huh?" he asked, holding her lightly by the arm and forcing her back. "Apologize right now to this woman and her son. I have seen how you have treated him, and you have been really unpleasant. I would even dare to say that in your words and in the way you looked at the child, there was racism, and that is intolerable," said the biker very seriously. The waitress felt cornered, and although she first tried to resist and escape from the ambush, she finally gave up and burst into tears. "I'm sorry. I'm not like that, I swear. I'm not racist, and I don't hate children either. It's just that seeing you today with your son has brought back a lot of memories from my past. I was a mother too once, years ago. But my child is now an angel looking down on me from heaven. My partner was a black man. That's why seeing his son reminded me so much of mine. They look so much alike. But I had no right to treat her like that. I let myself be carried away by the pain. I'm sorry," confessed the waitress with her face full of tears and feeling very ashamed of her actions. No one expected this apology, nor the unexpected confession from the waitress. The entire cafeteria looked at them without daring to say anything, while Rosemary cried inconsolably between Olivia and the 4 bikers. Realizing that the waitress was truly sorry and that her story was sincere, Olivia decided to intercede and put an end to the problem. She held the waitress by the wrists and helped her up. "I forgive you. Don't cry anymore. I don't know what I would do if something bad happened to my child, and the pain would be so great that I would lose my mind. Only a mother knows that kind of pain. The important thing is that you have apologized, and you have been sincere. I forgive you. Calm down," Olivia whispered softly. "A sincere apology is the best medicine for the soul. We all agree on that," said one of the bikers. ending the conflict and applauding the reconciliation between the two women. The beaker's applause was joined by the rest of the café, and the silence that had hitherto reigned in the place was transformed into a celebration of cheers and applause, celebrating the victory of justice and the power of an apology over conflict and hatred. Just then, through the door, came the owner of the coffee shop and Rosemary's boss, possibly the only person for 20 kilometers down the block who hadn't heard anything and who was stunned to see what was happening in his business. "Has something happened?" asked the man, very puzzled, as everyone looked at him and welcomed him back. "It's all under control, boss," one of the bikers replied, smiling amused. After the moment of celebration, Rosemary returned to work, but not before receiving a reprimand from her boss after hearing what had happened. Olivia and Tom finally got to enjoy their lunch, but this time they did so in the company of the 4 bikers they had just met and to whom they were deeply grateful. Together they celebrated little Tom's birthday, who was back to his happy, giggly self of an hour before, and ended a morning full of emotions and unforgettable lessons for everyone. Did you like this touching and surprising story? If so, we invite you to leave us a comment expressing your opinion. If you want to continue enjoying inspiring stories like this one, subscribe to our channel or check out the other videos shown at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for your cooperation.